Let me ask you something. How thick is your skin? Are you easily offended? For instance, let's say you're starving and someone in your household brings a pizza. You open it up to find they put pineapple on it. Or let's say you're a Green Bay Packers fan. But your team gets beat by the Minnesota Vikings. Or the Detroit Lions. Nah, never gonna happen. Are you easily offended when it comes to race or gender? Or if someone disagrees with your politics or religion? Do you get angry when things don't go your way? Or God doesn't play by your rules? If I was easily offended, you would have never heard of me. I would have lost my daughter forever. But as you'll see, I have thick skin and big faith. No one even knows my name. Scripture just refers to me as a Canaanite woman. Jesus just called me woman when I came to him. He never asked for my name. I think Jesus was on his way to the region of Tyre and Sidon. He needed a break from the political drama of Israel. His reputation of great healer and teacher exploded, and he was mobbed everywhere he went. But he was also hated by many religious leaders who resented his popularity. So it says he withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon to be among people who wouldn't mob him or attack him. But that really wasn't possible, even where I lived. He was popular here too. He recently fed 5,000 families with just a few loaves of bread, calmed a storm, walked on water, healed countless people, and he even raised a little girl from the dead. I heard all about this from Sidon. Lucky Jews, I thought. They have waited for their Messiah, their son of David, and it sure seemed like he had come. Must be nice. But then I heard two things about Jesus that really caught my attention. After he helped the centurion, or I heard he helped a centurion, a Gentile, a non-Jew. In fact, it was a Roman centurion, a commander in the army that invaded Israel. I remember thinking, what is a Jewish Messiah doing, helping a Gentile military leader that occupied the Holy Land? And secondly, after he helped the centurion, many people who were possessed by demons were brought to him. And with a simple word, he drove their demons out. That caught my attention. You see, I have a daughter. Well, I guess you could say I had a daughter until that thing took her. Her entire demeanor changed, her voice, her personality, even her accent. She breathed vitriol and hatred with every word. And she became extremely violent. She smashed every pot and dish in my house and beat me within an inch of my life. Oh, she was so strong. It took 7 or 8 fully grown men to stop her from killing me. Inhuman strength. People were terrified of her and they chased her out of town. But We often saw her lurking about in the hills, cutting herself and wailing in the night. I lost my daughter. So when I heard that Jesus was coming here to my homeland, I dropped everything and ran in his direction. He may have wanted a break from people like me and problems like mine, but he was going to have to wait to take a vacation, because I wanted my daughter back. I saw what must have been his group of disciples as I came over the hill. I didn't know which one was Jesus until I started screaming, "Lord, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. Help me." That's when everyone looked at him. He had his back towards me, and he was sitting by a fire in the field. He didn't bother to look at me, but I knew he heard me. I grew louder as I got closer, repeating my plea and begging for his help. But he just ignored me. I think his disciples were getting annoyed with my mom yell. You know, the mom yell. No one can endure the mom yell for long. "Jesus, help me. I need your help." I can do this all day, I thought. I'm not going anywhere until he responds. And after an extended period of mom yelling, the exasperated disciples were rubbing their temples and begging Jesus to just deal with me. "Release her. She keeps crying out after us." They were begging him to shut me up. And finally, he responded to them. "I was sent only for the lost sheep of Israel." Someone else may have given up at that moment, but not me. I mean, I get it. I'm not Jewish. And Jesus was a Jewish Messiah. But if he thought that was going to turn me away, he had another thing coming. See, I knew Jesus had at least 3 Canaanite women in his ancestry, including Rahab, Tamar, and Ruth. So God already found ways to welcome my people into his family. And I also knew what God had promised to Abraham, the great patriarch of Israel, that through his offspring, God would reach all the families of the earth. And at some point, God promised to save the whole world through Israel. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew the odds weren't all that great. After all, the Canaanites were a great enemy to Israel. They were always fighting the Philistine army, which was made up of Canaanites. In fact, when Israel first got to the Promised Land, God commanded them to utterly destroy the Canaanites. Now, I know that seems harsh, but you have to understand how broken my people had become. Canaanite religion was completely sexualized. Temple prostitutes would engage in grotesque acts with worshipers to manipulate the gods into sending rain or producing a good crop. Pedophilia was normalized, as was incest, bestiality, and all kinds of grotesque perversions. And worst of all, Canaanites practiced child sacrifice. Canaanite religion was a reflection of our utter perversion. We invented gods in our own image. They were bloodthirsty like us. They cared little for people, for children like us. Indulgence rather than love was our highest virtue. So when I heard Jesus say that he was only sent for the lost souls of Israel, I ran towards him. I knelt before him, and I cried out over and over again, Lord, help me, help me. I didn't care about the rules. I just needed his help. And that's when he spoke directly to me. It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Dogs? Dogs? I could have gotten angry and stomped away mad. But I was here to save my daughter, not my pride. Here is one Canaanite woman who's not willing to sacrifice her child. And if this man cared about children as much as Israel's God does, then neither was he. So I decided to roll with it. Jews see dogs as dirty scavengers, but I'm not Jewish. I'm Greek, and Greeks like dogs. We see dogs as part of the household. They sit by us at the table and get tossed the occasional morsel of food. We like our dogs. So instead of taking offense to Jesus calling me a dog, I decided to own it. It is right to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs. Yes, Lord, for even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. When I said this, Jesus gasped. He seemed to lose his breath, like my words caught him by surprise or woke something up inside of him. His eyes got bright, and he smiled. Looking directly into my eyes, he said, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." Up until this point, Jesus had only helped one other Gentile, the centurion. But after he met me, the dam began to break. Things started to change. Jesus started telling stories about God's love for outsiders. And he also was criticized, too, by religious leaders for hanging out with unclean people and outcasts. And after he rose from the dead, he commanded his followers to go into every nation, make disciples, and baptize people into his family. Now, I'm not saying that I changed Jesus' mind or anything, or adjusted his mission to include Gentiles. But I am saying that something changed that day. Starting with me, Jesus launched into a new chapter of his ministry that would include Gentiles and outsiders. I guess you could say that Jesus' decision to heal my daughter was a glimpse into a new future where God planned to save everyone through Jesus. Now, Jesus was born in a city called Bethlehem, which means the house of bread. How fitting. Right before I met him, Jesus fed 5,000 Jewish families with just a few loaves of bread. And there were 12 full baskets of bread left over after the meal for the 12 tribes of Israel. And the word used for basket in that story was a Jewish word, kophinos. Jesus made bread for Jewish people, so that word makes sense. But after he met me, Jesus fed 4,000 more families in the same miraculous way. And there were 7 baskets left over after the meal. 7 is the number that symbolizes completeness or fullness. And the term used for basket was a term used by Gentiles like me, sporis. It seems that Matthew's gospel is trying to tell us that Jesus makes enough bread for the Gentiles too, as a completion of God's promises to Israel. I kept tabs on Jesus after that. I made sure my daughter knew all about the man who saved her life and restored her to our community. And I'll never forget the day my cousin came to our door with the tragic news that Jesus had been crucified. We were devastated. We didn't want to live in a world without this man in it. It was only later that I understood why it had happened. The God that rejected the Canaanite practice of child sacrifice now had sacrificed his own child for the sins of the world. That was God's plan, to reach broken people like mine. We didn't need to sacrifice our children for him. He sacrificed his child for us. My daughter and I mourned for Jesus for several days. And then my cousin returned with the news that changed everything. Jesus was alive again. Some refused to believe until they could see the risen Jesus for themselves. But not my daughter and I. He saved my daughter from a distance without ever meeting her. So I didn't need proof. I knew exactly what he was capable of. So my advice to you is, get thicker skin. Don't be offended by everything. Don't demand your own way. And don't waste time putting people into little boxes of class and race and gender, because you will lose sight of God's plan to save everyone. Thicker skin makes you stubborn about the things that matter most. Thicker skin makes you bold towards God. Thicker skin makes you want to keep asking and keep seeking what God has planned, even if it takes longer than you want it to. hang around long enough, and you'll discover God is faithful to his promises, and he's full of surprises. And at the end of the day, we're all just dogs at the master's table. We don't deserve to be there. But as I suspected, he wants us there. And there's plenty of bread to go around. "Woman," he said, "you have great faith. Your request is granted." Your request is granted.